Finland, located in northern Europe, has a history deeply influenced by its geography, lying between the cultural spheres of Sweden to the west and Russia to the east. For centuries, Finland was a battleground for competing empires and external forces, but it eventually emerged as an independent nation in the 20th century. Finland's journey to independence was long and complex, shaped by wars, political struggles, and cultural identity. Today, Finland is known for its high quality of life, robust democracy, and a strong commitment to education and technology. Ancient Finland. Early inhabitants and settlements. Human habitation in Finland dates back to the end of the last ice age, around 8000 BCE, when the first groups of hunter-gatherers migrated into the region. These early inhabitants lived off the land, hunting, fishing, and gathering in the forests and along Finland's thousands of lakes. Archaeological evidence, such as tools and pottery, suggests that the Finnic tribes were related to other Finno-Ugric peoples, sharing linguistic and cultural traits with tribes in modern-day Estonia, Karelia, and parts of Russia. The region saw the arrival of farming around 3000 BCE, with the introduction of new agricultural practices from Central Europe. By the time of the Iron Age, 500 BCE to 1200 CE, distinct tribes had formed in Finland, including the Finns, Kavens, and Sami, the latter being indigenous to the northern regions. The Iron Age also marked increased contact with neighboring peoples, as trade routes expanded across the Baltic Sea. Medieval Finland and Swedish rule. By the 12th century, Finland had become a frontier for the expanding Swedish kingdom and the Eastern Orthodox Novgorod Republic. The Swedish crown sought to bring Finland into its orbit through military campaigns and religious missions. The turning point came with the Swedish Crusades, a series of military expeditions in the 12th and 13th centuries, which aimed to convert the pagan Finns to Christianity. Sweden succeeded in asserting control over Finland by the mid-13th century, and in 1323, the Treaty of Nödborg between Sweden and Novgorod formalized Swedish dominion over much of Finland. This marked the beginning of nearly 600 years of Swedish rule over Finland. Under Swedish rule, Finland was divided into provinces and became fully integrated into the Swedish kingdom. Turku, on Finland's southwest coast, became the political and cultural center of the region. Swedish law, language, and governance were imposed, though Finnish customs and language persisted, particularly among the rural population. The period also saw the Christianization of Finland, with the construction of churches and the spread of Roman Catholicism. The Swedish-Finnish period and wars with Russia throughout the Middle Ages and into the early modern period, Finland was often a battleground for conflicts between Sweden and its powerful eastern neighbor, Russia. Finland's eastern regions, particularly Karelia, were frequently contested by both powers. These conflicts were part of larger European power struggles involving Sweden, Russia, and other states. One of the most significant conflicts was the Great Northern War, 1700 to 1721, which saw Sweden and Russia clash for dominance in the Baltic region. In the aftermath of the war, Sweden lost large portions of its empire, including parts of eastern Finland, to Peter the Great of Russia. Finland, however, remained under Swedish control. Sweden's power continued to decline in the 18th century, and by the early 19th century, its ability to defend Finland against Russian ambitions was severely weakened. The tipping point came during the Finnish War, 1808 to 1809, a conflict between Sweden and Napoleon-aligned Russia. Sweden's defeat in this war led to the loss of Finland. The Grand Duchy of Finland under Russian rule, 1809 to 1917. In 1809, Finland became an autonomous Grand Duchy within the Russian Empire under Tsar Alexander I. The transition from Swedish to Russian rule marked a new chapter in Finnish history. While Finland was now part of the Russian Empire, it was granted significant autonomy. The Diet of Porvoo, a Finnish representative body, pledged loyalty to the Russian Tsar in exchange for the preservation of Finland's laws, religion, and customs. Under Russian rule, Finland retained its Swedish legal and educational systems, and the Finnish elite, primarily Swedish-speaking, held considerable power. The capital was moved from Turku to Helsinki in 1812, closer to the Russian border, to solidify Russian influence. Despite these changes, Finland experienced a period of relative peace and economic growth. Throughout the 19th century, Finnish nationalism began to grow, partly in response to increasing Russification efforts by the Russian authorities. Inspired by European Romanticism, Finnish intellectuals sought to revive and promote Finnish culture, language, and history. One of the most important milestones in this movement was the publication of the Kalevala in 1835, a national epic compiled by Elias Lönnrot from Finnish folklore. The Kalevala became a symbol of Finnish identity and cultural pride. The Fennoman movement, advocating for the use of Finnish language in education and governance, gained momentum, challenging the dominance of the Swedish language. By the late 19th century, Finland was experiencing a cultural awakening, with a growing sense of national identity among its people. The road to independence in the early 20th century, tensions between Finland and Russia escalated. Russian rulers, particularly Tsar Nicholas II, began to implement more aggressive Russification policies aimed at integrating Finland more tightly into the empire. These policies, which included attempts to limit Finnish autonomy and impose the Russian language, sparked widespread resistance among Finns. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 further destabilized the Russian Empire. By 1917, Russia was engulfed in revolution, and the Bolsheviks had overthrown the Tsarist regime. Amid this chaos, Finland seized the opportunity to declare its independence. On December 6, 1917, Finland proclaimed itself an independent nation, a move that was quickly recognized by the Bolshevik government. The Finnish Civil War, 1918, however, Finland's newfound independence was soon followed by a brutal civil war in 1918. The war was fought between the Reds, mainly workers and peasants who supported socialism and were inspired by the Bolshevik Revolution, and the Whites, conservatives in the middle class, who supported a more traditional, capitalist society. With the support of German troops, the White Army, led by Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim, emerged victorious. The Civil War left deep scars on Finnish society, but it also solidified Finland's independence. Following the Civil War, Finland briefly considered establishing a monarchy but ultimately chose to become a republic. In 1919, Finland adopted its first republican constitution, and Carlo Juho Stalberg became the country's first president. World War II and the Winter War. Finland's independence was again threatened during World War II. In 1939, the Soviet Union demanded territorial concessions from Finland, which the Finnish government refused. This led to the outbreak of the Winter War, 1939-1940, in which the vastly outnumbered Finnish forces mounted a fierce defense against the Soviet invasion. Although Finland lost the war and was forced to cede some territory to the Soviet Union, its military resistance earned international respect, and it maintained its independence. In 1941, Finland aligned with Nazi Germany during the Continuation War, hoping to reclaim lost territories. However, Finland eventually sought peace with the Soviet Union in 1944, and while it was forced to cede additional territories, it remained independent. Post-war Finland. Neutrality and modernization. After World War II, Finland faced the challenge of rebuilding and navigating its relationship with the Soviet Union. Under the Treaty of Paris, 1947, Finland agreed to remain neutral in international conflicts and avoid aligning with military blocs like NATO. This policy of neutrality, often referred to as Finlandization, allowed Finland to maintain its sovereignty while avoiding confrontation with its powerful eastern neighbor. In the post-war decades, Finland underwent significant economic and social modernization. It developed a strong welfare state, expanded its education system, and became a leader in technology and innovation. Finland joined the United Nations in 1955 and later became a member of the European Union in 1995, marking its full integration into the European community. Modern Finland. Today, Finland is a prosperous and peaceful nation known for its high quality of life, progressive social policies, and strong democratic institutions. It ranks highly in global indices of education, healthcare, and economic competitiveness. The country's history of resilience, from its ancient tribes to its battles for independence, has shaped it into the modern state it is today, a country that values its independence, democracy, and neutrality while maintaining a strong cultural identity rooted in its rich past.